I guess without further ado, let's introduce Celeste Gutierrez, who is going to conduct the interviews. She has facilitated previous forums, and we appreciate her support. You might see her doggies pop in and out.
What I will say, and this people that have gone to forums previously in the past, you know this. We have a pretty long agenda, so we're going to start on time, end on time, and also 2 minutes is 2 minutes. We're not going to give anyone extra time. So we did send out the questionnaire to everybody who's running for county supervisor, city council, and mayor. All candidates were invited. 5 chose not to participate. 10 accepted and completed questionnaires, which are posted online if you guys would like the link again, but I believe Jeffrey sent it out. Want to remind everyone that Brett is our timekeeper. Questions were also solicited by email ahead of forum that members were able to submit. And I'm about to answer your question. Brett, each candidate is going to have 2 minutes for an opening statement. After the 2 minutes, you will be muted. And first, we're going to, so originally we were going to have break it up between each district. So we were going to have like a District 3 section, a District 4 section, and then moving on to City Council, we were going to have like a District 4 section, District 6 section, and then a mayor section. Considering that's a lot of races, what we decided to do about half an hour ago is to combine so that, for example, everybody who's running for supervisor would be asked the same questions. Everybody who's running for city council, whether it's District 4, 6, or mayor, would be asked the same questions.
Should I invite
Yes,
the candidates for the supervisor?
yes. And then the order will rotate as we move down questions. So first we'll hear from Justin, then we'll hear from Elias, and then we'll hear from Felipe. And then when we ask the first question, Elias will answer first, then Felipe, then Justin. Then when we ask the second question, first we'll hear from Felipe, then Justin. Then so it's the order just keeps rotating so that the first person's not always going first, the last person's not always going last. So again, I'm going to remind everyone, this is really a reminder for Brett as well. This is 2 minutes, so you have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for having us here tonight. My name is Justin Cummings. I'm the current third district county supervisor. I really want to appreciate Santa Cruz for Bernie for having endorsed me during my 2018 and 2022 election campaigns. And just to give you some background, in 2018, I ran for public office on a vision and belief that Santa Cruz should be a place that is affordable for all, embraces diversity, protects our environment, and works towards creating a safe and healthy community. As environmental scientist, county supervisor, former mayor, former California coastal commissioner, I've worked towards making that vision a reality. I've dedicated my service to increasing housing affordability, supporting small businesses, expanding tenant protections, strengthening disaster preparedness and recovery efforts, balancing environmental protection with development, enhancing access to mental health and homelessness services, and supporting infrastructure improvements, among other issues. I've worked collaboratively with community members, local organizations, and regional partners to advance policies that promote health, equity, sustainability, and economic opportunity. I'm particularly proud of leading statewide efforts by local communities to protect our coast from offshore drilling and deep seabed mining. During my years of service, we've accomplished so much together, but I believe that there's more that needs to be done, and that's why I'm running for re-election and asking for your vote. With your support and on your behalf, I'll continue to work to preserve the values that make Santa Cruz a community for everyone and uplifts the values of Santa Cruz for Bernie. I voted for Bernie Sanders in 2016. I voted for Bernie Sanders in 2022. I'll rephrase that. I voted for Bernie Sanders every time he's voted for president. And actually, Bernie Sanders is who got me involved in wanting to run for office. Because when seeing Trump get elected for the first time, I knew that another generation needed to step up and uphold the values that Bernie Sanders has put forward, which I
We'll start off. So good evening, everybody. Thank you to Santa Cruz for Bernie for hosting tonight's forum and for bringing us together for tonight's conversation. My name is Elias Gonzalez, candidate for District 4. I was born and raised in the Pajaro Valley, and this community has shaped who I am. It's taught me about the concept of it's the hard work, looking out for your neighbors, and believing that when we come together, we can solve even the toughest challenges. Today, I think many families in Santa Cruz County are actually feeling something different. They're feeling squeezed. The cost of living keeps rising, and too many of our working families are working harder than ever just to get by. At the same time, we're seeing two different very realities, right? One where people are actually doing extremely well, and one where actually families are actually struggling just to stay afloat, right? That isn't just happening here in Santa Cruz County. It's happening across America, right? We're seeing the rise of an economy and a system that concentrates power and wealth in fewer and fewer hands, right? And that is also true here in Santa Cruz County, right? We're seeing decisions that are being made without the voices of working families, farm workers, small business owners, and young people at the table. And our communities are feeling that, right? That is why I'm running for county supervisor, because we need leadership that is focused on securing our future now, a future that where families can afford to live here, where our neighbors are safe, and where our communities are strong and connected. Securing our future means tackling affordability head on, building housing that working families can actually afford, and making sure local workers aren't priced out of the communities that they serve. It means investing in safety, not just through enforcement, but through prevention, youth programs, mental health services, and stronger community partnerships that keep our neighborhoods safe and healthy. And it means strengthening our sense of community, right?
Hello, my name is Felipe Hernandez, and I'm running for re-election to the Santa Cruz County Board of Supervisors, District 4. I was born and raised here in Watsonville, attended all public schools. My parents taught me the value of service and community. My mother was a cannery worker and a proud Teamster member who participated in the historic Watsonville Cannery Strike of 1985. Watching her fight for dignity and fair wages shaped my values, showed me the power of organized labor and the power of workers coming together. I took those lessons to heart. I enlisted and served our country during Desert Storm. When I returned, I attended Cabrillo College. I earned a degree in UC Santa Cruz, went on to work as a political organizer for the farm workers for several years, and then on to SEIU for a decade, improving conditions of working families. I also served locally in the community. I served as a library commissioner, a planning commissioner, and then I moved on to Watsonville City Council and mayor. And now I serve as your supervisor here in Santa Cruz County. Beyond my elected service, I am active in the members of the PB Dems, which we now changed our name. I served as a California Party delegate for Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren. And before I served under our Speaker of the House, Robert Rivas. And prior to that, I served under Luis Alejo, and we ensured that we held that local voices were heard at every level of government. I'm running for reelection because South County deserves leadership that shows up, listens, and delivers. My priorities are housing that is stable and attainable, long-term infrastructure investments, revitalized parks, bringing new parks, and reliable access to essential services. We brought the South County Government Center here to Watsonville with 600 employees here in Watsonville. And I'm committed to preparing our community for the future, investing in flood protection, climate resilience, and equality for all neighborhoods. I don't just support workers.
Have you or will you accept any campaign funding from military contractors, APAC, or corporate PACs?
Thank you. I have never accepted, and I will not accept any of those kind of endorsements. My campaign funding will all come from community organizers and community roots. So I will not be taking any of those kind of campaign funding. So no, I won't.
Thank you. Felipe?
No, none of them.
Thank you. Justin?
Yep. I will just say, wasn't able to say this in my opening statements, but I don't have an opponent in my race. And even if I did, I wouldn't be accepting money from corporate PACs, APAC, or military PACs. I did want to ask for clarification. I will say that for full transparency, I want to ask, I did last time that I ran when the real estate industry asked me if I would take contributions from them. I said yes, but I explained to them transparently that I was not for Airbnbs. I was pro rent control, and that those are the policies I would stand by. And if they wanted to give me money, then that means that they would want to work, they would need to work with me on policies that would support working class people in our communities. And I will say that ever since then, was able to pass policies that have reduced Airbnbs within our community, and the real estate community did not push back on that. And I will continue to be a strong voice for renters and working class people in our communities. But that being said, I am right now not taking any corporate PACs. I won't take any corporate PACs. I won't take.
Would you support public financing of campaigns? And if not, how do you ensure candidates without wealthy networks can realistically compete?
I would support it, definitely support it. I think within our county, we do have very reduced campaign contribution limits at 550. And I think that, I mean, you look at Monterey County and they're at 6,200 contribution limits. We're at 550. And I think that it's fairly low to, what I wouldn't like to see is what happened with the sheriff's race in Monterey County, where they had $100,000 contributions in the past for sheriff's departments from um, corporate PACs. So yeah, I'd be supportive of that too as well. Of public financing.
No, I think it's critical that we work on campaign financing reform, and we allow for public campaign financing, and that we even out the ability of public financing campaigns to help contribute to um, you know local folks who are running for office, and that we try to get rid of some of the private corporate PACs that have really disproportionately had negative impacts on smaller local folks to donate to campaigns. We really need to even the playing field, and I feel that we need to really figure out how we can better support public financing campaigns.
I think yes, I would definitely support public financing. I think I should state it. I think it's important that we even the playing field, right? We are seeing a lot of donations coming in from big folks, right? And it's impacting our community and the decisions. So I think it's important that we develop a people-centered approach, right? Where the people come first and that we're including community at the forefront and not big dollars and big contributions coming into the spaces. So really focusing on community, really focusing on people-centered, really leveling the playing field so that folks with little to no backgrounds like myself have an opportunity to compete in these spaces. So yes.
Is battery storage necessary for a sustainable electricity grid? Can it be safe or should it be banned?
Yeah, well, I'll start by saying that I've been leading a statewide coalition to ban offshore oil along the state of California. And part of that is because we really have to move away from um, oil and burning fossil fuels in order for us to save our carbon or to save our future and our climate. And I believe that if we can, in light of what's happened in with the Moss Landing facility, if we can figure out
30
ways to
seconds.
make energy storage safer, then we need to explore those. And I think that what's most important at this point in time is looking at energy and renewable resources as being something that's going to help our climate and prevent future disasters. And so we need to make sure that energy is safe. And so for that reason, I'm supporting us trying to figure out how we can provide safe energy storage here in Santa Cruz County.
I believe battery storage can play an important role, right, in the sustainable energy grid. I think as we move forward towards renewable energy, I think it's important that we start figuring out how how we're putting it out there and also where it's being deployed, right? I think that it's important, especially for South County, right? As we're having these conversations about a battery plant in Minto Road. I think it's important that we acknowledge these serious safety concerns around large lithium-ion battery facilities, right? With everything happening, I think it's important that that we put District 4 residents and that we let them know that their safety is a top priority, right? I don't believe that banning energy, storage entirely. I don't believe we need to do that. I think that we do need to work together to figure out the solutions for the future, right?
Thank you.
I think that it's important to reduce our greenhouse gases. And that's why with our county, we did the first ordinance to provide the strongest safeguards to protect our community. And it's one of the strongest ordinances in the state, if not the county. And we took everything that we learned from Vistra and applied it to our ordinance to make sure that the safest. I want to say one of the things that we did in this ordinance is we stated that we wanted the latest technology available. And what I learned today is we have our first sodium battery BESS facility in California that went online today. And so now we have a new fourth generation battery that is safer for our community, which our ordinance states that we need to use the safest technology. So I'm very happy about that. Folks have reached out to me from Solano County. They said they basically copied our ordinance. San Benito County, Ignacio Velasquez called me and said I sent the ordinance. They used our ordinance and did a moratorium until they completed their ordinance. So we've been going up and down trying to
The
figure
time
out.
is up. Will you protect the rail corridor for future zero emission passenger rail transit while the trail is being built alongside? Is a rail future in Santa Cruz County dependent on acquisition of state and federal funds?
Yes, we will protect the rail corridor. I think it's important that we start looking at zero emissions passenger rail, right? And it's important that we start figuring a way to connect South County and North County, right? I think it's important for me to make sure that we have ability to get for South County folks to get up to North County and that we have access to just to get out there. I think the reality is that it's the state funds. I think if we could get federal funds and state funds, I think it's important that we use those funds. I think historically South County has been impacted, right? And we have, less access to jobs, healthcare, and even recreation activities, right? So I think it's important that we protect that and that we're able to connect South County and North County to have an equitable Santa Cruz County. So yes, I would stand behind it and support that.
Yes, I think, I've been one of the strongest advocates for the rail trail, along with Supervisor Cummings, analyst Andy Schifrin. Here in South County, we find it critical, essential that we have this rail corridor because thousands of workers traverse Highway 1 in traffic. For today, I spent an hour and a half, or Tuesday, I spent an hour and 40 minutes because there's an accident on Morrissey to get there. And of course, on the way back, it was similar. People spend over 3 hours of their days, and I see it as a quality of life issue. I think that advocating for the rail trail for me has been important. That I reached out to the Caltrans rail director, Shelley Simmons, and she's actually coming. She came down to provide input as to how we can find the funding that we need for the rail corridor and the trail, of course, as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just say since I was even prior to getting elected in 2018, I've been a strong proponent of fighting for maintaining our rail and trail. And even in light of the, high price tag that people have put on how much it'll cost for us to have rail and trail, I think that that is a challenge that our community is up for. We've fought to maintain the rail and trail with Measure D. Over 75% of the folks in our county said that we want to maintain our rail and trail, and we must maintain our rail and move forward with trail, and that's what we're dedicated to the voters to do. I understand that there's issues with funding shortfalls. Felipe and I voted to, accept and move forward with a $110 million grant, and because of staff issues, that might not be sufficient, but we have to be proactive in figuring out how we can make sure that we maintain our rail and maintain our ability to move forward with our trail in our county. And I will say that we're almost done with segment 5 in North County, but we need to really focus on South County and Mid County to make sure that
Thank you, Justin. In addition to actions the supervisors have already taken to protect county residents from ICE, what can county supervisors do to help county residents who are detained by ICE? For example, provide legal assistance, provide financial assistance, and care for family members and children left behind.
Actually, we spearheaded a program to provide legal defense fund of $100,000 for immigrants facing deportation. And we're having discussions about increasing that amount right now because the majority of that money has been used up. And second of all, we started the SHIELD program, which we initially, the first action that we did as part of the SHIELD is we did no ice on county lands. The city followed suit, Cabrillo followed suit, County Board of Education followed suit, and we're going to discuss it with the rest of the cities to follow suit as well. And the next thing on the next agenda is we have a item on before the board to show them that make sure that they identify themselves and they wear no masks. It's a resolution to support the state mandate for them to not wear masks and to identify themselves.
Yeah, I'll just say that, you know, to Supervisor Hernandez's point, last year we did put forward $100,000 once Trump had gotten elected to supporting families who could be targeted by ICE. I've been meeting regularly with the sheriff and brought forward an item to encourage the attorney general to enforce against any ICE agent who comes to our county and violates the rights of any individual, because it's not just about our immigrant community. Many of us will likely be at the indivisible protest this weekend. And we know that there are many folks in our community who will fight back against ICE agents, and we want to make sure that the Attorney General's office will be supporting us as well. But we must do everything within our power to ensure that people know their rights, and we've been doing that through the red cards, and also ensuring that people have access to legal assistance. And so I'm committed to continuing to make sure that that's a part of our budget and making sure that our immigrant community members feel they're safe and supported with our
Thank
legal
you.
system and our government.
So, in addition to what's already been done, I think it's really important that we expand access to legal representation. I think that is the one most important thing that folks that are not being, when folks are being detained, they don't have legal representation. So I think that it's important that we create those it's the defense funds for that exact purpose, right? Representation is important, and it's important that folks have their due process in these spaces. I think it's also important to, work with the folks that are already doing the work, do a rapid response support, right? We know that there is a network in Tri-County, San Benito, Monterey, and it's the Monterey, Santa Cruz, and San Benito County working together to create that rapid response. We know CAB, we know it's the Catholic Charities, and we know that it's God, I'm dropping the third one. Watsonville Law Center is actually doing some of the work. So funding those nonprofits that are actually doing the work to get back into the community, because again, we know communities are scared. We want to make sure communities feel supported.
Thank
And
you,
we want
Eli.
to-
Would you favor requiring any county agency, including the sheriff's office, that wants to acquire any mass surveillance technology to hold public meetings, provide detailed information about the technology and its proposed uses, and get Board of Supervisor approval? The question is also in the chat.
Yeah, I've sat down with the sheriff on a number of occasions, and we've had discussions about mass surveillance technology. And I think this is, related to the license plate surveillance technology. And, I think it's really important that when technology is going to be implemented and used, that there are some conversations that need to be had, and the acquisition of that in terms of the funding that's going to be spent, that comes before the board. And that's based on the conversations I've had, the current policy that exists. And I will say that when I was on the city council, we had similar conversations about license plate readers. And then we ended up working on banning facial recognition technology and Predpol, and similarly with the sheriffs, I'm engaged with them on these types of technologies and ensuring that we're protecting the identities and information of people within our communities.
Yes. So yes, I support requiring any county agency, including the sheriff's office, to hold public meetings, provide detailed information, and obtain Board of Supervisors approval before acquiring any mass surveillance technology. In fact, I believe that this approach is in line with the intent of AB 481, which was passed in California to increase the transparency and accountability around law enforcement technology, right? So I think it is important that we have that, and I think it's important for our community and law enforcement to build that trust and that relationship, right? It's important that we make those decisions with the community involved and not behind closed doors. Again, that builds transparency, that builds relationships, and that builds community, and that builds that trust that has been eroded historically, right? So again, I think it is important that we have these kind of conversations and that we put that in the forefront because it does impact our civil liberties and a lot of other things. So yes, I would think it would be important for folks to actually bring these conversations to the forefront and have them in the community.
Thank you.
I too also had long conversations with our sheriff, and he's currently opposed to the idea of having flock cameras. And so I would, if we had, let's say we got a new sheriff, I would want it to come to the board before us so that we could vote on it and represent the voices of our districts. But I would be opposed to any flock cameras, any surveillance cameras at this time. No answer ifs or buts about it. Uh, People have access to them. It's a very, very difficult to reduce the access to different law enforcement agencies like Homeland Security, like ICE. It's very difficult to do that.
So now each candidate will have 3 minutes for a closing statement.
So thank you again to the Santa Cruz for Bernie for hosting tonight's forum and to everyone who came to participate in this conversation about the future of our community. District 4 is a special place. Watsonville and Pajaro Valley are communities built by working families, farm workers, and small businesses, and people who care deeply about their neighbors. But for far too long, many people have felt like South County has been overlooked and when decisions are made at the county level. I'm running I'm running because I believe our community deserves leadership that listens, shows up, and fights for the people who live and work here every day. We need leadership that will work to create real local jobs, address the housing crisis, protect our environment, and invest in opportunities for our young people. Most importantly, we need leadership that brings people together to move forward as a community. I would be honored to earn your support, and I'm committed to working every day to build a stronger, more equitable future for South County because this campaign is about securing our future now. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank Bernie for Santa Cruz for supporting me in 2016 for City Council, 2020 for Trustee, and 2022 for Supervisor. Um, I was the only elected official in Santa Cruz County in 2016 to endorse Bernie, and so I got invited to introduce Bernie here at the Kaiser Stadium. And then in 2020, I was only one of two elected officials to officially endorse and contribute to Bernie. And so me and Paco Estrada were invited on stage in San Jose with Bernie Sanders. And those two moments were two of my proudest moments because for me, it's about our community, it's about workers. I don't just support workers, I fight alongside with them along the picket lines, rallies, at the negotiating table. And together, we got to continue to build a safer, stronger, more just South County.
Yeah, I just want to start by thanking Santa Cruz for Bernie for really highlighting the platform of Bernie Sanders within our community. I learned about Santa Cruz for Bernie back in 2016. I came to the rally, and when Donald Trump won his first election, that's what mobilized me, and it was Santa Cruz for Bernie that being able to be connected with a community of people who shared his values that really engaged me and motivated me to run in 2018. And so I'm grateful for the endorsement, Santa Cruz for Bernie in 2018. Grateful for the endorsement in 2022. But I think most importantly, I'm really grateful for being able to work with you all over the years for all the things we've been able to achieve together. Increasing our inclusionary housing in Santa Cruz is something that I'm very proud of to have worked on. That I know that affordable housing is something that's important for Santa Cruz for Bernie. During COVID, as mayor of Santa Cruz, was able to move forward with a rent freeze and eviction moratorium, which I know is very important for folks from Santa Cruz for Bernie. Being on the California Coastal Commission and making sure that we're reducing housing that's going to Airbnbs is something I know that's very important to you all as well. And working currently to stop and fight back and push back against offshore oil, which is a threat to California on the Trump administration. I know it's something that's important to Santa Cruz for Bernie. And while I don't have an opponent right now. Part of why I'm here is because I want to make sure that people have access to government because our government needs to be run by people. And I want to make sure that I'm representing you all as someone who will fight for the rights of people, not for the developers, not for our corporations, but for you all, the average citizens of Santa Cruz who are impacted by the decisions that are being made here locally. I've been committed to doing that over the past 8 years that I've been your representative and moving forward, and especially since I haven't had any opposition to my campaign. I believe that the community has the support in my campaign, and with our movement together, that we will continue to make sure that this is a priority at our County Board of Supervisors. So I want to thank you all for having me here today. I really appreciate your support and would really appreciate your endorsement. So thank you all.
So thank you all for coming, the supervisorial candidates.
I believe Brian's here, or Brian Hackett for the
Okay.
judge race. Good.
Welcome, Brian.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Yep. So you will have 2 minutes for opening statement, and on this screen.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you. I want to thank Santa Cruz for Bernie for hosting this, contacting me, and inviting me to this. I want to specifically thank Jeffrey for his assisting me and accommodating me in figuring out some of the issues I had in tech and getting here. My name is Brian Hackett. I'm running for Superior Court Judge. I am a private criminal defense attorney. I've been in private practice for 17 years here in Santa Cruz, the last 15 of which I have been situated at an office directly across the street from the Superior Court at 701 Ocean Street. Half of my practice at any given time or more has been court appointed, not privately retained, and has given me an opportunity to spend a majority of my time representing indigent, underrepresented, marginalized portions of our communities, many of them Spanish speaking, lots of them confused about the process. I have been able to serve my local community in that way as sort of a freelance public defender, and really focus on a holistic view of criminal law, where I make sure that the district attorneys and the sheriffs and the judges are all being made aware of all the collateral issues that people bring into court: drug and alcohol issues, mental health issues, socioeconomic issues, cultural linguistic issues, educational barriers, and really make sure we get a whole picture of the situation. In the 15 years that I've been working in the building, I have built and fostered relationships that I look forward to combining my 15 years of experience right there in the building at 701 Ocean and those relationships that I've cultivated in a way to expand my service to my community by bringing common sense to the bench and a fair and impartial justice and equal rights for our community here in Santa Cruz. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to be here tonight.
Have you or will you accept any campaign funding from military contractors, APAC, or corporate PACs? And the timer will start when you start speaking.
I have a real short answer, and the answer is no. I have not. I will not. I don't expect to be offered it, but if I were, it's not money that I would accept. I think one of the hardest things that's happened to our country, and it doesn't necessarily apply to judicial races the way it does to many legislative races like the ones discussed before mine, was Citizens United and its impact on money in politics. And I just think it's really done damage that it may take a generation to undo. And I'm certainly not going to be a part of that problem. I will continue to be a part of the solution. I'm running a grassroots campaign. I'm putting yard signs out myself and shaking hands and introducing myself to anyone who wants to talk about it. So no, I would not accept that money.
Would you support public financing of campaigns? And if not, how do you ensure candidates without wealthy networks can realistically compete?
I would support, some of these questions are for me personally, because my role as a Superior Court judge, if I'm honored to be elected, would not be in implementing policy along the lines of money in lobbying or campaign finance. But as a voter, as a person, I would certainly support public funding, and I do think that it's incredibly important as we see the disparity of income in this country get further and further apart, that we empower the people who don't represent that top 1%, many of whom have very good ideas, some of whom have better ideas than the richer folks. It's along those lines that I support any bill that levels the playing field so that Wall Street is not taking over Main Street as much as it has.
How can the law be practiced to protect and serve the most vulnerable in our society over the interests of the wealthy and politically connected?
Well, I appreciate that question personally, because as I said, my experience in criminal courts, the last 15 of which have been directly across the street in the Santa Cruz courthouse, and I'm proud to be a member of that local legal community, I have been able to work hand in hand, creating collaborative solutions with the help of some really great people who work really hard at Chris Clark, the sheriff's office, at behavioral health, at probation, at many of the terrific mental health and drug and alcohol treatment facilities in town. And a lot of that work that I do, I work just as hard for my indigent clients who don't pay me as I do for clients who retain me privately. And the answer is good people working hard as attorneys and judges is how that gets implemented, and how we make sure that that financial disparity doesn't result in a legal disparity and an unequal impact on justice.
Next question. In what ways do you advocate for fair and comparable compensation for interpreters and other court staff?
Well, as a local attorney working in the building, I, am not part of the policy making per se, but the nice thing about Santa Cruz, and I've worked in a lot of jurisdictions from San Bernardino to Richmond, and I can say that Santa Cruz is as open-minded and open-armed a legal community as any. And there are weekly and monthly meetings for justice partners, for juvenile justice partners, and that brings all the parties together, court staff, DAs, public defenders, private defenders, and the bench to discuss these kinds of issues, what kind of needs we have, and how our community is best served, and how the hard workers in the building are best served. And I would continue to be a voice in those rooms and in those conversations about making sure that those interpreters who work their tail off day in and day out in both courthouses get compensated justly.
How would you use the law as a guide if you received a federal request for an arrest or search warrant related to an immigrant or anti-genocide protester?
So the way I would apply the law in that case would be the way I would hope I would apply the law in any case, which is on an individual case-by-case basis. What I think we need to avoid as jurists is knee-jerk responses. When I interviewed for the commissioner position in 2019, I spoke at great length with then Judge Volkman, now retired Judge Volkman, about how we can leave even our implicit biases at the door and the challenges that face judges in doing so. And I think it's critically important that on every issue, especially these weighty issues where state and federal and local authorities are in conflict, that we make sure that the appropriate law is being researched, vetted, and applied appropriately, and that justice is being done on an individual case-by-case basis rather than broad stroke solutions.
Do you believe that fees should be waived for appeals of regulatory decisions by interveners who are not market participants? There are organizations that generally represent consumer and environmental interests. For example, fees are waived for such organizations when appearing before the California Public Utilities Commission.
I think there's an equal protection argument there that, some constitutional law applies to only certain areas and not others, and equal protection doesn't necessarily always apply. But I think there's a fair and equitable idea of justice that would, I think, motivate us to make sure that, and that may be an example where we're not making a case-by-case basis, because I don't want people deciding who gets the free appeal and who does not. I think there might be some wisdom behind allowing people to appeal decisions. If certain segments of the legal population can appeal decisions, there better be a really good argument why other segments of the legal population are being denied that right, especially if they're only being denied access to that remedy because they can't afford it.
Thank you, Brian. And this is the last question before your closing statement. Considering the work of all the judges serving in Santa Cruz County, give 3 examples of judgments you admire and state why.
Judgments I admire and statewide. So I am going to limit this to sort of hypothetical cases that are real cases that were mine, because that's been my direct experience, and most of the judgments that I have seen the most impact from, I had direct involvement in. Judge Heather Morse went out on a limb when she was the juvenile judge and allowed for an atypical solution to a 15-year-old boy who was being charged as an adult under the law at that time. and recognized his individual needs, and we ultimately got him probation. Judge Jerry Van Leeuwen just recently made a very brave decision to keep a young man in juvenile court when the law would have allowed him to exercise discretion and move him to adult court. And I think the facts supported his decision. And then other than that, I think that the judges on our bench.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that you follow the rules too, Brian. You're a great attorney. So now you'll have 3 minutes for a closing statement.
Okay, I probably won't use the whole 3 minutes. I do want to just reiterate my thanks for Santa Cruz for Bernie for inviting me and bringing me here. Separate and distinct from my legal career and my hope to be on the bench, I'm a huge fan of Bernie Sanders. I voted for him in the 2016 primary. I was poised to vote for him in the 2020 primary until the Clyburn effect in South Carolina motivated me to consider coalescing the party around one candidate, because I really thought it was a life or death decision to get Donald Trump out of office. Little did we know 4 years later we'd be facing the same problem. But a huge fan of Senator Sanders then and now. The recent bill he co-sponsored for the 5% tax on the billionaires, the most wealthy in the country, is about as sensible a fiscal policy as I've ever heard. I'm a fan of his environmental policy and his health policy, and I just appreciate the work that all you guys have done on his behalf. In the 15 years that I have spent working in the building across the street from my office at 701 Ocean and working in Watsonville at the 2nd Street Court as well, I have fostered and cultivated long-term relationships with judges, district attorneys, public defenders, county counsel, the city attorney's office, private lawyers, the sheriff's department, clerks, interpreters, and behavioral health staff. I look forward to combining those relationships that I've cultivated with my direct experience working in the building in an opportunity to expand my service to my local community from what I've been doing to the bench. I look forward to bringing a voice of common sense to the local bench and continuing the tradition of listening to each case impartially and effecting fair justice and equal rights for our community. I'm grateful for the invite tonight, and I would be honored to have your endorsement on June 2nd. Thank you.
That concludes our portion for the people running for judge. Now we will ask the folks that are running for city council. So all of you will have 2 minutes for an opening statement. And as soon as
Hi, thank you, Celeste. I'm Joy Schendeldecker. I'm running for mayor of the city of Santa Cruz. I am an organizer, an educator, an artist, and a public service worker. I work on the front lines of Santa Cruz's housing and human services systems. I serve as an operations manager and lead monitor for local shelter programs, overseeing staff, client services, safety, and day-to-day operations that keep people cared for and supported. In the past, I've gotten endorsements from SEIU Local 521, the Monterey Bay Central Labor Council, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 234, and the California Nurses Association. My public service includes co-founding Santa Cruz Cares. We fought with some success the oversized vehicle ordinance and the camping standards and services ordinance that the city council passed in 2021. And Sanitation for the People, we were a grassroots mutual aid organization that helped people clean up around their sites living outside. I'm also a certified community mediator through the Conflict Resolution Center of Santa Cruz County. I am running for mayor in part to refocus City Hall on the essentials, keeping people housed, supporting local jobs, protecting public services, and making Santa Cruz more affordable for the people who live and work here. I support housing stability, responsible public investment, strong labor standards, transparent local government, redistribution of wealth, owning the public
Thank you,
power.
Joy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me and sponsoring this forum. My name is Amy Chen Mills. I'm running for mayor of Santa Cruz. I think it's high time we had a progressive woman of color as mayor of Santa Cruz, like a real progressive. I've lived in Santa Cruz County for 30 plus years. I've been reflecting on, why I am running and why I'm qualified. And I have just seen in my history that I am a true public servant, meaning I am always in service to this community. The only difference is that a servant gets paid oftentimes. And and often I haven't. I just do it because I don't like when things aren't fair. I hate it that things are so inequitable in our country. Here are some of the things that I've done locally. I helped to found Extinction Rebellion, the climate activist group, and helped to organize the climate strikes. Hector was there. I remember meeting Hector there. I was on the board of the Conflict Resolution Center. I worked for Ecology Action. I did get paid then. I am now an elected member of the Democratic Central Committee for District 3. I organized Get the Flock Out, was the founder, and helped to get the flock out of Santa Cruz, served on the Homelessness Committee for the City of Santa Cruz, served on the Westlake School Site Council, helped to save the benchlands and get Indigenous stewardship of the benchlands, and helped folks at the St. George remain in their affordable housing. I see my time is going to run out quickly, so I just want to say that local politics mirrors national politics. We have unprecedented amounts of money coming into our campaigns. We have billionaires now in the county funding campaigns, whether against the rail and trail or for certain candidates. And I think Bernie Sanders is all about fighting the oligarchy. And that is something that I want to do in office. And I also want to make sure that all voices are heard so that we can work together to bring real solutions to our city. Thank you so much.
Hi all, I'm Gabriella Nowak. I'm running for City Council District 6. It's nice to see you, some of which I've had the pleasure of meeting in person. I'm kind of a last minute run as I decided to step up on the last day of filing because I felt that in District 6, the interests of all voters weren't being fairly represented, especially the interests of renting and student votes. I am a UC Santa Cruz student, and I'm going to be graduating this summer, 10 days after the election. I study philosophy and sociology with an emphasis in digital justice. And I'm also a Cabrillo College graduate. Cabrillo College really gave me some roots in Santa Cruz. Yeah, go Seahawks, that I'm very proud of. And it was the start of a lot of my really organized community work in Santa Cruz. As a student at Cabrillo College, I was a volunteer peer-to-peer tutor. And this really showed me that actually, even in California and at Cabrillo College, where we're so progressive, there really is a lot of educational inequality and systematic inequity in Santa Cruz, and especially with our surrounding neighbors, right? And I became a TA there and worked with a lot of peers who were previously incarcerated. Oh my gosh, it's running out so fast. Sorry. I was a teacher at Roundtree Facility in Watsonville to offer free tech education classes to incarcerated adults. I am currently forming a tech equity free education class at Barrios Unidos in collaboration with the Everett program. I really care about community stewardship. I really care about working with my boots on the ground. It's what I do, and I'm running because I think that we need someone who will put the work in. Thanks, guys.
So my name is Hector Marin, but before I introduce myself, I wanted to thank every single one of y'all for coming through and for being in the space and for fighting the progressive ideals in which we are fighting so hard for. My name is Hector Marin. I'm running for Santa Cruz City Council. I'm a public school educator and a community organizer in the city of Santa Cruz. Day in and day out, I know the challenges that our children are going through, and these challenges are often reflected of the challenges that working families are going through. We want to make sure that we provide a stronger voice for working families in Santa Cruz City Council District 4. Our vision is simple: community first. We want to ensure that we have an affordable Santa Cruz, making sure that we have stronger renter stabilization policies and ensuring that the developers provide the true affordable housing that our city needs. Our second pillar of our community first vision is ensuring that we have a clean, safe, and inclusive Santa Cruz, making sure that we pay our city workers the adequate and the fair wages that they deserve and provide them with the benefits that they deserve because they provide the essential city services that make our community go. And our third principle is also protecting what we love, preserving public spaces, preserving our schools, protecting cultural hubs like the Catalyst to ensure that we have a Santa Cruz that is thriving for everyone. I have previously worked as an AFSCME 3299 union organizer, so I know how to advocate and collectively bargain for fairer deals for our workers. I have also organized in the Beach Flats Comunidad, and I'm the founder of Grito de la Gente, where we host annual Mexican Independence Day fiestas in community with our Beach Flats residents to celebrate Cultura. It would be an honor to receive your endorsement. Thank you all so much, and I heed my time.
For that. My name is Gillian Greenside, and I'm running for mayor. I'm a 51-year resident of the city, and for the past 45 years, I've been actively involved in city politics. I also worked at UCSC for 30 years as head of rape prevention education, a case study in speaking truth to power. I'm running for mayor on several issues and will concentrate on one. That is the massive overbuilding of new mixed-use housing, predominantly market rate, accelerated by city management and city council, way beyond what is required by the state. This is not simply a matter of aesthetics or the loss of charm and character of Santa Cruz. This is a direct attack on the working class. How? Because as more and more affluent people move to live here, they raise the area median income on which all affordable housing rents are based. As the AMI rises, affordable rents rise. This city has had a 25% rise in the AMI in the past 3 years. Even city staff acknowledge that new housing in the long run has a, quote, net negative fiscal impact on city services. In other words, all of them will get more expensive. So, if elected, what can I as mayor do? We have a city manager, weak mayor system of local government. The mayor cannot just snap fingers and expect a new direction. However, I believe that facts and evidence are persuasive. Despite speaking against them, I do have a good rapport with current city council and am respected by city staff. I'm confident that with community support and new leadership, we can slow down the Titanic of overdevelopment and chart a new course.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Santa Cruz is one of the most beautiful places in the world, but right now, too many people who make the city run can't afford to live here. Teachers are commuting over the hill. Service workers are traveling great distances from Hollister and as far away as Gonzales. Some who have deep roots here are leaving Santa Cruz entirely. Young people who grew up here don't have places to live. And because of the lack of housing on campus, 5 and 6 UCSC students are living in 2-bedroom apartments in town. But you all know this is not happening by accident. It's the result of a compliant city council. Decisions about housing, about transparency, and about who this mayor and council are really working for. I'm running for mayor because I believe Santa Cruz should work for the people who live here, not just the people who can afford to invest here. Let's be clear, we do not necessarily need more high-end housing. We need more affordable housing. Housing that our nurses can use, our teachers and union frontline workers can actually afford. Housing that keeps families here. Housing that strengthens our community instead of getting priced out. I'm running for mayor to protect the natural environment and along with county partners to seriously address homelessness and the needs of our communities unhoused. I'm running to improve public safety and acknowledge that we must address the public health crisis first. And this might begin by looking at Coral Street and at the condition of our downtown. What we don't need more is more of the same. High-end apartment projects that maximize profit, but do little to house the people already here, and the university telling students to come here, but without providing adequate housing. I'm running for mayor because I believe Santa Cruz is not for sale, and I would cherish your vote and an endorsement from Santa Cruz for Bernie.
Have you or will you accept any campaign funding from military contractors, APAC, or corporate PACs?
Absolutely not. Um, However, I must admit, no one has offered this money to my campaign. I don't think that they would. I'm also going to take the fossil fuel free pledge, although I'm also not getting offered fossil fuel monies. And I do think we should be funding campaigns. I think every candidate, it's so hard, as some of our candidates here now know, to get all your paperwork in, get all your signatures in if you can't afford the filing fee. And we need to provide the filing fees or waive the filing fees for candidates. I think we should give every candidate some seed money to be running. And I think we should also sponsor public forums for the general public that the city should actually, sponsor, at the Civic Center or elsewhere, so that we really have a chance to hear from everyone who wants to run. So that's my stance on taking corporate funds. I won't be taking any corporate funds except maybe a check from my husband's company.
No, point blank, period. Accepting money from any of these organizations would fundamentally be in contrast with my principles, which are what really have pushed me to run. My principles of community care, an emphasis on equality for all, equity for all. The military industrial complex, exploitative housing corporations, privately funded super PACs, they really negatively affect all of us. They create instability. They create really like a political elite, even in our small town of Santa Cruz. And I'm fighting hard to, be a grassroots campaign. I'm a working student. I so far have $20 in campaign donations, but I'm making it work, and I would never change that, especially if any of these organizations approached me.
Thank you, Gabrielle.
So none of our previous two city council campaigns have ever seeked out the endorsement of the California Realtors Association. And similarly, this year, we will not be seeking out the endorsement of the Realtors Association. And we will stand firm by those progressive values because we believe in the grassroots. In terms of AIPAC, it's Free Palestine on this side. Our campaign has always been explicit in our solidarity of Palestinians, and we believe that this movement reflects the moral integrity of our city council campaign.
Well, the city of Santa Cruz has a mandatory upper limit of $450 donation. So we're probably below the radar of the big corporations and the list you listed. But of course, no, I wouldn't accept money from any of them. And I agree that encouraging more people to run for office, one of the biggest stumbling blocks already mentioned is what you sort of have to pay out in the beginning. It's quite a hefty amount. But the question was about those particular entities. The answer's no. And I did also accept, you can opt for a mandatory expenditure of $52,000, and I did sign that agreement as well.
Thank you. No, I'm not taking any corporate or PAC money. In fact, I agreed to the campaign spending limit. Bernie did pretty well on $27. He made that a famous thing, and I think there's enough money in Santa Cruz. The campaign limit right now is $51,000. I don't know. You just said something else, Jillian. I thought it was 51. Every candidate here has accepted the campaign spending limit. There's one candidate who's not here who hasn't accepted that limit, and it seems like a pretty big amount of money to have a level playing field amongst us. So no, I'm not accepting PAC money, and yes, I accepted campaign spending limits, and we do need publicly financed elections. Thank you.
Yeah, I would not take money. It's on my website that I won't take money, not just from corporate PACs, but specifically from real estate or police organizations. It's true that we have a maximum contribution limit, and it's true that we've all signed the voluntary spending limits, and the PACs like Santa Cruz Together, and before them Santa Cruz United, they have spent extraordinary amounts of money on behalf of individual candidates and slates of candidates without, in a way that is legally separate from the campaigns. And of course, as a candidate, you can't necessarily control everything that people do on your behalf or for or against you in the public domain. But I certainly
would you support public financing of campaigns? And if not, how do you ensure candidates without wealthy networks can realistically compete?
Yes, I would definitely support public financing of campaigns. I think the fact of how impractical it is to run for public office, gain the seat, and really do good for your constituents, if you're not coming from generational wealth or a trust fund or supported by super PACs, I think it's really one of the biggest problems that we're facing in America, and it trickles here to Santa Cruz. I think that campaign spending should be limited much lower than it is. I think that, maximum of campaign expenditure that we have for like $420 per corporation is great. But, $51,000 for a mayor race shouldn't really be needed in a small city. And yeah, I think that not wealthy candidates need to be able to compete. I'm able to compete.
Thank you, Gabriela.
So yes, we are supportive of a public financing system to ensure that we have a fair elections democratic process within our city. I also want to emphasize that our previous city council campaigns have never sought out or accepted any contributions from the Realtors Association, and we will make sure that we provide this same moral consistency throughout our city council campaign this year round. So we are supportive of a public financing system, first and foremost.
Yes, I would definitely support public financing. It seems a major need and step forward.
I pretty much answered the question, and I'm not going to take up your time right now. I did want to put a word in about AIPAC, the American Israeli Public Affairs Committee, and how insidious it is, and that it actually does reach down to places like Santa Cruz City Council and local city councils all over the United States. And it is keeping us, funding wars in Gaza and keeping Israel afloat. And it's a shame. And I'm sorry that our representative in Washington takes so much money from AIPAC. Thank you.
Yeah, we need publicly financed campaigns. I've had that as part of my platform since I ran for mayor in 2022. So this is the third time I'm experiencing firsthand how challenging it can be. The voluntary spending limits that we've signed on to, it equates about 83 cents per resident of Santa Cruz. We could be financed for a reasonable amount of money, for a much more practical amount of money by aggregating costs, by having it publicly financed. The cost per voter could be slightly raised, but we would have far fewer costs. We could also maybe limit some of the money that we all have to spend on mailers and yard signs, which are extremely expensive. Those are some of the most expensive costs for us, and kind of a lot in the community, a nuisance for voters sometimes.
Well, I think I've answered that question already in my answer to another question, but obviously we need to get big money out of politics. That is the root cause of all of our life-threatening problems at this moment, including planet-threatening problems, including AI problems. And so we need to start to model that in our community. And that can mean, seed funding. I do support people going out to get signatures because you got to weed out some folks who aren't that serious really about running, but just want the attention. If you have to go out and get, say, 100 signatures, great, you're already starting your campaign because you're out there, canvassing, knocking on doors at the farmers market. And I think that, the government should be supporting forums too. We have a lot of forums and we could consolidate a little bit and get more people involved in politics by having public forums. And I would love to see that actually.
And up next will be the question specific to your races. And what's an appropriate percentage of affordable units in new housing developments?
An appropriate percentage would be 20% full stop. That's precisely what the city of Santa Cruz passed, and I believe that we should provide 20% inclusionary housing, full stop, and ensure that there are no loopholes at all whatsoever that these developers can utilize to circumvent that 20% and dilute it to a lower percentages, as this current city council member, this current elitist Zionist city council member in District 4 is doing. We want to ensure that we provide 20% full stop and that we also advocate to push it to 25%. This is why our campaign in 2024 did so much walking and supported Measure M, because Measure M wanted to increase the inclusionary housing rate to 25%. And this consistency in my voting record reflects the progressive values that our city council represents, that our city council campaign represents. Gracias.
Yes, thank you. Well, I could be unrealistic and say 100%, which is what I believe, but we have to be realistic. And the city did pass for 20%. The problem is with the state housing laws that what results from when they have their density bonus is that 20% gets reduced to about 11%. And then we're told that the density bonus is because we're getting affordable housing. It's the biggest con job, and people believe it. So I think our city has to push back and ensure that all market rate housing includes the 20% that is the law, and confront the state on how they're gutting our affordable housing, along with gutting a lot of other local protections for the environment.
Jillian covered a lot there. And, of course, I believe in 100% affordable housing. And I think we should put a hold on, the market rate housing until we catch up to, the students, the seniors, renters. They can't afford the prices that are being charged right now in Santa Cruz. Back in 2000, I was part of a group that we got 25% at 1010 Pacific Avenue and also Pacific Shores over on the west side at that time. So these developers who come in and say, oh, it just doesn't pencil out at 20%, and then correctly folks said, yeah, and we're getting 11% with the density bonuses. So yeah, I'm firm on 20, and we talked about 25% just a year or two ago at the city council. But again, that means you have 75% unaffordable housing, and that's the problem.
I think that what we should do actually is look at our housing affordability makeup as a system, and we want to get to the place that, sorry, there's a dog barking. The neighbor's dog is barking. It's very distracting. So we know that we have more than 50% renters in the city. We know that we have a lot of low income people. We need our total housing stock to match that. So whether it's new construction or preserving already existing affordable housing, much of which is aging out of deed restricted affordability year on year, we need to find the pressure points wherever we can to preserve and extend those affordability measures that are already in place. And
Thank
then
you, Joy.
Okay, well, I think it is possible to build 100% affordable housing. We've been doing it throughout the city and county, and there are ways to streamline 100% affordable housing. The question is, what kind of affordable are we talking about? Are we talking about affordable at 80% of the area median income, or 30% to 50%, which is what we want to go for? That will be my priority. I believe we can push back to get more affordable housing. And I agree with what Joy's saying about looking at the whole structure and system. We need to support, for example, tenant sanctuary and tenant protections. There is, a Tenant Protection Act at the state level that a lot of tenants don't know about, and they don't feel like they are empowered to reach out and fight for themselves when they're about to get evicted or when the rents are increasing. And we can track how much the rents are because we track how many rentals there are. So that should be part of what we are doing to help people who are renting now. There's a lot more to housing. It's very complex. I've been getting
Thank
into
you.
it.
Well, I think everyone has said really beautiful things, and we agree in many ways. I agree with Amy that 100% affordable housing is possible. I think it just takes creative, fresh looks at things and and a willingness to make tax incentives for 100% affordable housing developments and a willingness to make tax like de-incentives for luxury housing. I think it's really important the way that we articulate what affordable housing is, as sometimes it's considered just below market rate, which really is not appropriate considering that market rate in Santa Cruz for a single bedroom apartment is upwards of $2,900. I think that we should look to the communities that have been serving Santa Cruz for a long time to collaborate on this. Like Barrios Unidos is pushing for an 100% affordable housing initiative, and I think we should support the communities that have been supporting us.
Mm-hmm.
Would you support an ordinance that would prohibit federal immigration authorities from using city-owned property for enforcement operations?
Absolutely, yes. I would strongly support that ordinance. I know a lot of people who, daily are very afraid of their status and what might happen. And I've been appalled at the tactics, the ruthlessness of ICE. And I mean, going to courts where people who've done everything and paid to get there and then been arrested. I mean, it's beneath contempt. It is outrageous. I would absolutely support that and more.
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, I have done that in the past. We passed a sanctuary city resolution, but we also passed another ordinance that prohibits city employees from having anything to do with ICE. That was back in 2017 when we found out that ICE had a desk at the Santa Cruz Police Department. It was just a scandal, actually, that this happened. And we had a very difficult raid, at that time too, on a Salvadoran family in Seabright, where they came in and threw flashbang grenades. It just really upset the whole neighborhood. It was a terrible time, and I also think that we should be preparing, not publicizing, but preparing to work with our partners like YAR, like Surge, and as a previous speaker said before, Eli.
Thank you, Chris.
Legal representation. Thank you.
The short answer is of course I would support an ordinance like that. I think that's the absolute lowest bar we could set for being a sanctuary city that is safe for all of our residents, whatever their status is. I think so. Saying that, I'll take a 30 seconds to plug my my ire over our local police department having military grade weapons in their arsenal, weapons that are used potentially when they go to provide mutual aid to cities like Oakland, or anybody in the region. Our police department does not need, military grade weapons or less lethal options like tear gas. Get rid of it.
Okay, so real quickly, we are fighting fascism. This is a huge issue for everybody, not just immigrants, but of course, immigrants on the front lines, migrants, transgender people, I mean, women, right? And on, LGBTQ people. So yeah, I definitely would support that. I don't know if it would work because cities have done that and ICE just comes right on the property anyway. So I would be interested in, of course, supporting that kind of an ordinance, but also we would be pressuring as a city any private entity that wanted to sell or loan a facility to ICE. I can't believe there are still detention centers in California that the state cannot somehow shut down because these are basically concentration camps. I have Emmanuel Navarez as an endorser who's on the Latino Affairs Committee. I have Peter Gelbin with the ACLU as an endorser. I have Fernanda Medina with the Immigration Coalition. I think it's really important to have a person of color actually represented, who is in touch with what's happening at the federal level on the council right now. We need the National Guard to fight ICE, actually.
Yeah, I think that we need an ordinance that would prohibit federal immigration authorities from using city-owned property for enforcement operations. And I don't think that's where we should stop. I think if or ICE were to break that ordinance or law, like ICE does constantly break laws, I think we should pursue legal action against ICE agents, especially if they're masked. But I believe in the abolition of ICE. I think that one way that we can also support anti-ICE measures is by turning to our community partners, supporting YAR, supporting the unionization of farm workers, supporting places like Barrios Unidos that give Know Your Rights training, right? Unionization actually is a lot more about than just wages. And now what we're seeing more and more often is through these solidarity networks that are negotiating for, even in their private businesses, for certain ICE protections, like agreements to not let ICE onto property. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Celeste. I would also like to note, as like the only Latino in this meeting, or along with Celeste, of course, and one of three people of color, I know the lived experiences that our people are going through in terms of ICE and their predatory tactics against people of color. And I will ensure that we will protect our migrant community members, because my parents, they come from they migrated from Mexico all the way towards California, and they didn't have no papers for a good 10 to 15 years. So these people are my family. I see them as my family. I mean, I will ensure that I protect my family in the city of Santa Cruz to the fullest extent by going the extra mile, not only just ensuring that ICE facilities, that we prevent any public facilities from ICE entering, but that we also prosecute these ICE agents to the fullest extent of the law. And not only that, we also want to ensure that we coordinate with YAR so that we can also provide more patrolling throughout the communities and throughout the streets of Beach Hill and Beach Flats, because these are the areas that are most
Thank you.
vulnerable. District 4
Thank you,
encompasses.
Victor. As an elected official, how would you make sure city election districts are as accurate, fair, and inclusive for Latinx and students, and not gerrymandered as they were when council districts were first put into effect?
So yeah, it very gerrymandered, and I'm not sure district elections is working. And I would, as mayor, I would call on doing a study and bringing in people and saying, do we really need district elections, or can we go back to an at-large system? Because has it actually done what the mission was actually to elect a Latinx representative because of underrepresentation for so long. So and then we could put it on the ballot. I would advocate putting it on the ballot and asking the people of Santa Cruz again and have this debate, because I don't think it's working. I don't think there are communities in common that have been developed in 6 districts. So far, it is favoring a certain group of people who actually put this ballot initiative together. The council rejected what the consultant said. So thank you.
Well, one thing that would help a lot would be progressive ranked choice voting. This is a basic, well-tested, lots of evidence behind it. So even if we keep district elections, that would be an improvement, I think, for all of us, along with publicly financed campaigns. Aside from that, when the districts come up for review, I believe that is in 5 or 6 years, we can have a more transparent and open system. Hopefully, with all of us getting elected, we would have a good foundation for that, a culture of transparency and accountability, and not, actually, in this case, not steamrolling over staff recommendations and community recommendations. Really making sure that backroom decisions are not trumping what the community and the demographers.
Thank you, Joy.
First of all, I have to say something that everyone should know. Ryan Coonerty voted for the sheriff to cooperate with ICE in 2011. That should be known at this time in this community during this election. I just had to get that in. In terms of how to make voting more equitable, well, yeah, that was the whole point of the lawsuit that the city said they were afraid of, and that's why they went to districts. the districts were more equitable until Ryan Coonerty stepped in to change the makeup of the districts at odds with the demographers. And I think if we were going to stick with districts, we need districts that represent the university, because that's where the most diversity is in this whole city, and also the Beach Flats area and any other areas around the Beach Flats where there are more Latinx people living. Otherwise, I also support ranked choice voting, and I believe that Stephen Bosworth has got something going right now in court around ranked choice voting. I haven't been able to be terribly engaged, but I would support that as well. Anything would be better than what we have now.
Hi. So, I think that gerrymandering in Santa Cruz is a large scale issue. The way that we were districted really dilutes the student vote and the Latinx vote, of course. But gerrymandering is inherently tied with redlining, which is a fact of the history and the current lived truth of Santa Cruz. I think that a better alternative choice is ranked choice voting. That way everyone gets an equal say and everyone's vote actually is equal. I think part of this though too, right? Like we had this district voting since 2020, and also student voting has gone down since 2020 because people my age really experienced COVID, experienced hardship, and it really changed politics. We also feel very underrepresented in politics. So part of this issue, the way that I want to solve it is I also really want to get the student vote out, and I think we should all work to do that.
So as an elected official, I've walked both of those precincts, both of the most Latino predominant districts. I ran for office and stepped up for our progressive community members to ensure that we had a Latino vote. And in walking those two districts, let me tell you, they are very gerrymandered. Beach Flats is paired with the Upper West Siders, and Lower Ocean is paired up with Seabright. There's a reason why it's so hard for us to win any progressive seats within that council, and it is intentional. So what we will do within that city council diet, I believe at around 2030, the city council district maps will be redrawn, or there will be a renegotiation. We will make sure that the Beach Flats and that the Lower Ocean areas are both united as one district so that we can have a Latino representative or a Latino friendly person in there.
Yes, I was at City Council when this was voted on to districts which were foisters on us. It was ridiculous to have districts for a town of this size. That was my opinion, I think others. And it was actually Shebra Kalantari Johnson who made the motion to ignore what staff had recommended, which really was not a bad job of dividing the city up. But the motion that passed by all the council that was made by Ms. Kalantari Johnson has led to what we're seeing now. It was so appalling. I tried to get a lawyer interested in suing the city, and the lawyer said, it was from over the hill, said that it was conflict of interest, couldn't get involved. So I'm looking forward to the future when we can debate this again and make sure that what happened the last time doesn't happen in the future. That'll take a lot of community organizing, and of course it depends who's on council.
Some view community development and improvement primarily through the lens of economic growth and profiting. Do you agree or disagree with this view?
I disagree. I mean, I'm a socialist, an eco-socialist feminist, and I believe strongly that in a holistic approach to community and redistribution of wealth and resources, we can't be just focused on economic growth. Growth doesn't necessarily mean, and actually over decades or a century has not guaranteed a quality of life for the majority of people. We have higher inequality than ever in the city of Santa Cruz. Yeah, we need public goods. We need to invest in our public goods, whether it's our workforce, whether it's public property for public housing. These are not commodities that can rely on supply and demand. These are things that people need to survive, and that we need all of us to thrive as people and together.
Thank you. I've been grappling with this question quite a bit because I also believe that we need to support a localized economy and support local businesses, smaller businesses. The city has been supporting companies like Joby, which has a $4 billion market cap, giving them a free loan essentially that they could write off if they brought in jobs. They had already set up their headquarters here, and I was someone who actually wrote to the Sentinel about this and said, what are we doing? So if we're going to incentivize economic development at all, I would want to incentivize local development, local jobs, union jobs. And someone mentioned raising the minimum wage in Santa Cruz, so I'd be looking into that as well. I've been trying to look into it now, but I haven't come to any conclusions. I know I'm going to need 4 votes on the council, and that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to think what could we actually do. And obviously, we need to subsidize so much housing, healthcare. That all needs to be socialized, and we need to
Thank
bring it
you.
back to scale.
Thank you, Amy.
I believe that looking at economic growth without context and larger effects is always going to be tied to the exploitation of the politically marginalized. So I think that it's an inappropriate lens through on its own to look at public good. It's a real problem in Santa Cruz. We're seeing a lot of more third spaces being attacked. Even Salsa by the Sea hasn't gotten its summer permitting. This is a problem really personal to me because I love to salsa dance. But Salsa by the Sea is one of the last few reoccurring weekly cultural events that's free. We also see the Catalyst shutting down, which I know Hector has worked hard to fight against. This is happening because politicians are forgetting that every single constituent's vote is equal, right? Like we need to be protecting the interest of the public good, and we need to be protecting the interest of small businesses, not just the interest of those wealthy enough to donate to campaigns.
I know y'all have been working hard, so I'm going to answer this very simply to just reduce time out of respect of Santa Cruz for Bernie organizers. No. Simply, no. We want to ensure that we tax the wealthy, and we will tax the wealthy when we are in city council.
Yes, I guess it depends what you mean by or what one means by economic development. I'm a strong supporter of our local businesses. I'm a strong supporter of preserving our fast disappearing industrial lands, which can create well-paying, good-paying jobs. However, economic development, as it's seen or as it's promoted, is high end. It's facilities for the wealthy. Santa Cruz has always wanted to be the champagne side of the bay, and it's been the beer side of the bay, and it can't compete with Monterey, which is the champagne side of the bay. So now the city fathers and mothers are successful in drawing in the high end. But the exploitation of the workers in that equation hasn't changed. So if that's what is meant by economic development, I'm against that.
You know, the focus on economic development, the way that Santa Cruz has been doing it, is what got us here in the first place to where we're at. $3,300 for a studio apartment and $7,500 for a townhouse at this new River Row place. This is the new floor. You know, it's not going to go down. We are a wealthy community, you know, and we're allowing for-profit developers to really eat our community seed corn. We need to redefine what economic development is. You know, expanding park space, preserving our environment, because we're dependent on tourism. So enhancing the environment is a good thing, and that's why people come here. Focusing not so much on the boardwalk and access to the boardwalk, but what about the redwood trees and the ocean and the beaches? Supporting our local businesses is we have to do that. That's economic development. The ones that are already here, those businesses that are suffering. Thank you.
So we're going to switch the order for closing statements. All of you will have 3 minutes, and you can either expand on a question you wanted to answer or talk about new topics, and we're going to go in that.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me tonight. There are real choices in this election. If you are happy with luxury apartments and surveillance technology and a cozy backroom deals between realtors and UCSC administrators, then you have a candidate in this race. But if you wish to change the course and focus on building real affordable housing, electing some who will protect the environment and stand up to city staff and university administrators, then I'm your candidate and I would cherish your vote. I will always put community first and not sell out to outside developers for profit from our beach community, but many of whom who are profiting don't even live here. There's one person in this race who is backed by some interest, by the same interests that benefit when rents keep rising. I am running for mayor because I am making a commitment to stand with those people who pay those rents. It doesn't mean we will stop building. It means we build smarter and more fairly and for the people who live here, who do the work here. I want to be just really clear about something else. People in the city are concerned about what they see every day, about homelessness, about safety, about the condition of our downtown. Those concerns are real. The number of people experiencing homelessness continues to grow, while our current mayor and city council is cutting day services and offering bus tickets to our most vulnerable so they can get them out of town. We need solutions that are both humane and effective. More shelter, more day services, not less day services, and clear expectations about public spaces so that Santa Cruz works for everyone. I am running for mayor to make Santa Cruz more affordable, more livable, and still be true to our values and principles and to what makes this such a special place. My campaign is empowered by big developers or outside money. It's powered by residents, by renters, by homeowners, by seniors, students, by people who believe this city can do better. And if we come together, if we show up, we can build a Santa Cruz where people who love this place can actually stay here. This is an important time in our history, a crossroads. We are going to continue. Are we going to continue to be Silicon Valley's Silicon Beach? Or are we going to practice the progressive values of Zohran Mamdani, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and our club's namesake, Bernie Sanders? If you elect me mayor, I promise you, I will work 24/7 for workers' rights, to stand up to pernicious profit-seeking developers, and to protect our precious natural environment, and to address the scourge of homelessness. I hope you'll join me in keeping Santa Cruz the special place that it is, and say with me, Santa Cruz is not for sale. I would be honored for your vote and for a Santa Cruz for Bernie endorsement tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Celeste, and thank you for Santa Cruz for Bernie for this opportunity. I greatly appreciated it. I decided to run for mayor because I have been involved. By involved, I mean I've gone to countless city council meetings. I've taken up issues of the environment, particularly trying to save heritage trees. I've been very interested in housing, etc. And I've had a year on the civil grand jury, 2023 to 2024. And one of the investigative reports we did, and it's in-depth investigation, was entitled Housing for Whom? And the question is, we are building quite a bit of, quote, affordable housing. Who's getting it? And we looked into that because the claims for Measure C and Measure B was that it's workforce housing. Sounds good. And I'm frankly sick and tired of sound good slogans. And we looked into it and we found that the city doesn't keep track of any of that. They don't know who's getting the affordable housing. And we cannot build enough affordable housing to meet the needs of the whole county or the whole region. So the proposal was that we should put teeth into tracking, verifying that the affordable housing is going to local workers and locals. The city just blew us off, the civil grand jury. Since that time, I've been working really hard with other housing activists, and we're very close to getting that in place. I want to be on the mayor's position to make sure it happens. To me, that's critical. I've also seen, as closely looking at the what's happening in the management staff, there's been an incredible increase of top and middle management at City Hall, at City. It's beyond of my 45 years of observing closely staffing. It's out of sight. And that can, in the long run, bankrupt a city, because when those folks are ready to retire, they'll have big retirement packages. That has to be confronted. I'm very concerned about the environment. We gutted our park ranger program, but now the head of Parks Department wants a PR person. The priorities are wrong. And the lack of democracy at City Hall is a problem. So I think there's serious issues to be confronted. I can't do it on my own, obviously, I'm not a despot. I'd work with council, I'd work with staff to change direction to the areas that I'm talking about. So I hope and you will see fit to endorse me for the position I seek. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Let me speak from the heart because I care for you all so much. I would like to first start off this closing statement by stating that I made a mistake recently. I made a mistake in the essence of not being transparent with Santa Cruz Fort Bernie in accepting money from Noancy and from the Realtors Association. I own up to these mistakes and I apologize for that lack of transparency. I stand firm that Measure C was weak policy, mainly because that policy gave out-of-town developers a huge tax break. Now that it's been voted in, we will make sure that we respect the will of the voters and that we also tax the out-of-town developers and these corporations to this fullest extent. When I'm in the classroom day in and day out, and when a student makes a mistake, we amplify their voices. We get to know their perspectives. We offer restorative justice practices as a way to restore trust. We don't talk behind their backs. And I hope that we can have those conversations so we can remediate our relationships. In terms of our city council candidacy, we have walked the walk with you all. We have been there for you all day in and day out. Measure O, Measure M, the empty homes tax, rent control, Measure M, housing for the people. We walked with you all and we expressed our solidarity behind all of those measures explicitly when it was a risk, especially as a person of color, to do so, because we trust in our progressive ideals, because we trust in our progressive values and in our movement. This city council campaign, it's not my campaign, y'all. It's our campaign. It's a campaign for our Latino undocumented people who are very vulnerable during these situations with ICE raids. This is what this city council campaign stands on. I also want to ensure that we also maintain and that we rebuild the trust between our progressive community members. I'm here in the struggle with you all. When no one stood up for you all, I made sure that the progressive fight was still alive throughout the city of Santa Cruz. And I will make sure that we keep that same energy. I reaffirm my support of rent control. I reaffirm my support of the empty homes tax. I reaffirm my support of housing for the people. Not only will we do that, we will utilize that city council seat as a seat of public service first and foremost, so that we can amplify everybody within the process. I would be humbled to receive your endorsement, and I apologize sincerely from my heart. I hope that we can better our relationships and that we can move forward so that we can create a Santa Cruz that is thriving for everyone. Mil gracias.
All right. Well, first, I just want to say thank you again for having me here. It's an honor. And, younger me is squealing because right after my 18th birthday, I got to vote for the first time and I got to vote for Bernie in my primaries in 2020. I got this, I love it. I got a picture with my ballot. And really, I admire the work that you guys do in the community. I know about Santa Cruz for Bernie because I know fellow students have been involved before. I really appreciate what you do. And also, a lot of your members have really stepped up to help me and be involved in local politics, knowing that I'm a young person running with no funding and just a grassroots movement. I mean, that really says a lot. You guys are really politically involved, and I really want to thank you for that. More about what I do. I am I'm a volunteer educator. I'm a volunteer educator in the jail in Watsonville, where I teach tech education classes for tech literacy. I'm a volunteer educator at Barrios Unidos, where I co-facilitate tech drop-in tutoring and long-term tech teaching classes. I do this because the fight for equity and the fight for communities that can really work together to solve the problem of surveillance technology and environmental extractivism that's included in it, it's personal for me. You know, I'm only 24. I wasn't planning on running for city council, but it was clear that the incumbent wasn't taking these things seriously, and I take them seriously because this is my future. I want to be able to sit on the beach in my 20s and be able to enjoy it, but I can't because it's too hot in the winter and I might not be able to have kids someday. You know, that's all to say that I am so committed. I've had my boots in the ground, in the mud. I've been working, and I'm always going to go where I can make the biggest impact because really what I want is I want us all to be able to join Santa Cruz. I want to be able to continue to live in Santa Cruz and afford it. And I want, my fellow non-trust fund babies to really create long-term community here. But it's not going to happen unless we all really step up. So I hope you all will endorse and support me in what I'm doing here. I know I'm not perfect, but I'm so open to learn. And I have a deep history of really listening to communities, listening to what they need, and then delivering solutions that are long-term oriented. I want to keep on doing that on the city council. So thank you guys so much, and thank you for hosting this.
Well, first, I also want to thank you for hosting this forum. It has felt like a pretty friendly group of folks all together. And along those lines, I want to say that everyone who's running here, when I'm mayor, will be in my kitchen cabinet. I think that we agree on a lot of things, maybe a few things that we disagree on. And so I wanted to talk a little bit more about my background as a resiliency coach and teacher, as a journalist, as an educator, as a writer. I think I bring unique skills to this role of mayor. One of the things that I do is I like to listen to people. I like to try to have dialogues with people across political divides, and try to understand what their perspectives are so that I can work with them to get them to my perspective, or at least to a collaboration. And so I think I've been really good at that on the DCC, where a lot of people had sort of given up hope. We just got a anti-flock resolution passed with a majority vote. We got the Block the Bombs bill passed, support for Block the Bombs to Israel. We got support for funding to UNRWA passed. We are now working on getting a dialogue going with DCC members about Jimmy Panetta and his support for Israel, his unwavering support, his unquestioning support, his really blind support, it feels like to me. And I've been doing all of this with people who I know are sensitive about these issues. I respect their sensitivities and I'm still pushing them, and we're getting to places where we're moving. And that's what I would do on the council. That's what I did with the Get the Flock Out campaign. I was told several times that I would not get Renee Golder's vote. I was told that by Fred Keeley even. And I kept saying, well, we'll see. Well, we'll see. And it was Renee Golder who actually brought the first meetings together to talk about the Get the Flock Out campaign, which we had to have to start to get the ball rolling with the council. And so this is my approach. The mayor will need 4 votes regardless, right, of what we want to do. And so depending on what the council looks like, and hopefully it'll look different after this election, but if it doesn't, then it's going to be a hard rolling up a boulder up the mountain, right, to get really progressive things done. And so it's going to take someone who can educate the public, get the public on board, and also work with people to change their minds, to get them to see something that they may not see now. And it might be just because they just don't know, which is what I found with the Flock campaign. Is a lot of people just were not connecting the dots. So, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm almost out of time. There's more I wanted to talk about. I just will thank you all the candidates too. Thank you for running. It's so hard. Thank you for all of your service.
Thank you. And thank you all for being here, not just the candidates, but also all the Santa Cruz for Bernie members who have stuck around for a pretty long meeting. So I'm running as part of a working class movement to expand participatory democracy here in Santa Cruz. I'm a proud eco-socialist feminist and the only openly queer candidate in this race. Here's an example of how I have fought for our community and am dedicated to continuing to do so. A few years ago, I worked with community groups and Unite Here Local 19 to push for stronger community and labor concessions for the Cruz Hotel. We took it all the way to the California Coastal Commission. The developer had support from the council and mayor, and the project was moving forward without adequate guarantees for workers or enough community benefits. I, along with others, advocated for the preservation of public property for public housing, and I spoke publicly, organized with others, and advocated for labor standards, accountability, worker housing, and affordable accommodations. I commit to holding city leaders accountable to their promises, and including myself, if elected, and challenging unjust policies and pushing past political gridlock and special interest influence. Santa Cruz belongs to the people who live and work here. Tenants, workers, teachers, nurses, students, young people, caregivers. Every day, I see these incredible people stretching whatever resources they can muster to accomplish essential work in situations that professional politicians and business elites have systematically neglected, controlled, and exploited, which simply don't serve the lived realities of regular people. Santa Cruz's housing crisis continues to push people out of the community they build and make home. People can't afford to live where they work, and our public systems too often simply react to rather than prevent these problems and crises. At the same time, we have so much knowledge, care, and commitment in this community. We have enormous public resources and a rich and rambunctious social life in an environment that has survived numerous harms, disasters, and conflicts and remained vital. What we're building here isn't just about one election. It's about relationships, trust, and shared power to shape the future of this place together. It's easy to focus on what hasn't changed or what we've lost, but over the past 10 years, we've made real gains. When we persistently engage together, we blaze that path. This moment, including this mayoral race, is part of a long collective journey. I'm running to bring Bernie's values, all of them you know in 4 seconds, and I'm not backed by special interests. So let's cultivate grassroots power, less AstroTurf, more community boards for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. So thank you, District 4, District 6, and mayoral candidates. So with that said, the next person we will hear from is going to be about the Metro tax measure. So we're going to spotlight James Sandoval, and James will have 5 minutes to speak about the measure.
Hi, everyone. James Sandoval here, former bus operator at Santa Cruz Metro for about 10 years, and now I'm taking on a full-time position for the union and helping out with this effort that's happening currently right now through the Friends of Santa Cruz Metro. What it is a sales tax initiative through a citizens initiative to get on the ballot for November. And the reason why we're doing it through a citizens initiative is because if Metro were to put this on the ballot, it would take 2/3 threshold to get it passed for voters. And by doing the citizens initiative, we'll get it by 50% plus one. So the odds of it passing are a lot higher. However, it comes with a lot of work, a lot of effort. Right now, we need to collect about 12,500 signatures by May 11th. And we're at about 2,200 signatures at this point. So we're, gaining momentum, but we're not exactly meeting our milestones. So we need all the help that we can from all the people that care about our public transit. What it's about is that if we can't get on the ballot for November, what Metro did is they used one-time money that we had to show the community what Metro is capable of with public transit by making our system go from hourly service to now 15-minute service. And it also was undependable because routes would drop all the time. And, we didn't have enough operators. They hired enough operators to do the 15-minute service. And we also were allowed to make it free for kids under 18. And basically our ridership has gone up over 40% since we've done that in the last couple of years. So, public transit is really important in our community. We're really hoping to get all the support we can. What will happen is if we don't get on the November ballot and it doesn't pass, we're looking at a 40% reduction in service. We're looking at laying off potentially 100 union jobs. And we're also looking to end the 18 under free program. And what's cool about this is if we do pass this, we could actually expand free service to seniors, people with disabilities, and low-income residents while retaining the 18 and under free. I know I'm all over the place. Sorry, I just had to jump on right now. But I'm here for any questions. We do have a press event coming up on Friday at 12 o'clock. We're going to have a lot of people there. We're hoping to see as many transit lovers and, Metro supporters and, our friends and allies there, because this is going to be really important to us to get on the November ballot. And we're also spreading the word about trying to get as many volunteers as possible to the No Kings event on Saturday. There's 4 locations: Wattsville, Santa Cruz, Scotts Valley, and Boulder Creek. And we're thinking that this is going to be the good bump that we need. So for anybody that is looking to volunteer, we have 2 locations to pick up in the county. Santa Cruz at our downtown Union office at 903 Pacific Avenue, Suite 205, anytime before 6 o'clock. And we also have a spot in Watsonville. Our PVFT brothers and sisters were able to allow us to leave our petitions in their office at 734 East Lake, Suite 14, I believe. And you could pick them up anytime between 7 and 4, Monday through Friday. And so anybody interested, feel free to reach out to me. I'll leave my phone number in the chat. You could contact me directly. I'll plug you in. We need all the help we can and truly support all of your time. Thank you.
Thank you. I have heard that if we pass the sales tax, which I'm not thrilled that it's a sales tax, but it's fine because it's a good cause, but that we max out our threshold in terms of any more sales taxes, I believe at the county level, which is also fine. I'm just curious about this, and I'm wondering if that affects the city as well. Are we now capped by the state and we can't raise sales taxes anymore?
Currently, there's a bill moving through the legislature, AB 1919, authored by Gail Pellerin, and she's introducing language that allows us to be able to do this basically. And I don't know if it reaches the cap or prevents us from doing anything further, to be honest, but it's more clarifying language to make sure that what we're doing is going to be okay. It's a half-cent sales tax. I know people don't like tax, but if you look at it, it's truly an investment, because it's a half-cent sales tax is typically 50 cents for every $100 you spend. And in return, we're going to get robust public transit to where even if you don't take the bus, it's going to affect all of us, because it's going to help with that traffic that we truly hate from South County to North County, North County to South County. And that's going to help us retain the funding that we need to be able to provide this for this community.
Thank you. And I'm going to read a question that's in the chat, and then afterwards, Brett, you can ask your question. So the question in the chat is, why a sales tax? Question mark. We are always being asked for sales tax for things we need. Why can't we just tax the rich? Question mark.
Oh yeah, I wish we could just tax the rich, and we do support that billionaires tax. I'll speak for myself. I signed it. But right now we can't rely on anybody other than ourselves in our community, because the current administration, as you'd all imagine, is not making it a lot easier for public transportation or public funding at all. And the sales tax would be the consistent funding that we need to be able to provide the services that we need. Right now, we're not seeing the same type of flow of money that we did under Biden to be able to provide the transportation we do now. So we just need to be able to lean on our community to keep providing the service that we currently have.
I'm just curious, do you have data like on specific routes? I think they doubled the service, and do you have a percentage increase for those routes where the service was doubled? It's just a curiosity.
Yeah, I have an email that I could pull up that shows a lot of data as far as like the 40% increase in ridership. The 15-minute service is mainly for our more popular routes, like the 71, or it's not, they rerouted all the numbers. Sorry, I haven't been a driver in a while. But the ones that go from South County to North County, or the ones that go up to Boulder Creek, and, the ones that get us over the hill, a lot of our popular routes went from 30 minutes to an hour and dropping to now 15-minute services through Reimagine Metro. You probably find a lot of information on the Metro website too, but I should have the data that you guys need. So anybody that's interested, I'll leave my email in the chat. Go ahead and leave me an email or send me an email, and I'll send you whatever I got.
Are you using paid circulators for the petition?
At this moment, unfortunately, no, because we had a little bit of funding in the beginning to help us print out all the petitions, but we're currently running low. However, we do possibly have a good chunk of funding coming in from 2 different organizations that we're really looking forward to. They just haven't hit the account yet. And we haven't figured out a good way to use the money yet, whether it's to hire a coordinator to help us with the 90 plus volunteers that have signed up. But right now, to be honest with you, our unions have been at Metro, which is SEIU 521, and our union, Smart Local 23, have been ones that are taking the lead on this as far as calling and coordinating and organizing and keeping track of stuff and, giving out information. And we got maybe 3 drivers, including myself, that are calling everybody on the volunteer list once a week just to try to plug people into certain events in certain places. But it's literally all in our own time because we don't have the funding yet to pay people to do this, unfortunately. But hopefully that changes soon.
If I could just say a comment real quick. When it comes to sales tax measures, I just want to remind folks that when it comes to like diapers, medication, groceries, the things that lower income people need, those things aren't included in what the sales tax can apply for. And so when it comes to how it impacts lower income people, there's less of an impact on lower income people. There's much more of a benefit, especially because we need to have transportation that lower income people can have access to. But when you think about people who are going buying, new cars, whether it's jewelry, clothing, the things that are expensive that people are coming in, and especially the people who are coming in as tourists who are going to the boardwalk and going to places in our town, visiting, those are the people who are going to be paying the majority of that tax. And so a lot of what's going to be paying this is people who are coming in from out of town or people who are wealthy who have the means to go out and frivolously buy things. And it's not going to be a tax on the things that working class and lower class people are going out for day to day. So I just want to make sure that people are reminded by the fact that the majority of the people who are going to be paying this are the people who have means, and it's going to have less of an impact on lower income people.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank
And
you.
I'll remind you again, free fares for seniors, free fare for the disabled community, and free fare for low income. And then
And
also
there's
continue to 18 under free.
and there's one more question in the chat, James. The question was, does this tax have an end date?
From my understanding, it does not have an end date. And it would generate around $27 to $28 million projected. That is the funding that we need to be able to continue to do what we're doing.
I think those are all the questions. Appreciate you coming, James, and appreciate all the candidates that were here. We will now be, Jeffrey, if you can put the link in the chat again for people to be able to vote. And
Oh, so
Linda, I see that
I'll
you
leave
just put it.
sorry, I forgot to mention, I don't mean to cut you. I'll leave the link for the Friends of SCmetro.org in the chat, and I'll go ahead and hop off now. Appreciate you all your time, and go Bernie.